Have you ever thought that there might be development data as well as production data? That is data that is still being developed even though it's in production IT infrastructure. It's akin to having a farm where a product is grown, it eventually ripens to fruition and is then available for harvest. And I think perhaps you could argue that not all data is like this. For instance, event data is to some extent once and done, but even event data can be enriched, packaged, and delivered in different ways through different channels. So this is a concept that is important to us. Data is not simply something that's once and done. Development data is particularly important for things like master data, where it's gradually enhanced to a point where it is ready for consumption. What can be particularly confusing is the idea that development data has to exist in IT production infrastructure. IT thinks of development environments and production environments for code. They don't think of it for data. But if you think of, for instance, a customer onboarding workflow, there may have to be many steps in that process. The initial documentation of the customer, politically connected person checks, know your customer checks, anti-money laundering checks, creditworthiness checks, and so on. All of that has to be done in a production environment, and production IT environment, even though it's still data in development, it's not ready. We haven't had the customer, as it were, born yet. It's only when we get to a certain level, a certain critical mass of data, that happens. And again, this is incredibly confusing for IT people. Perhaps we shouldn't say development and production data, but maybe draft data and published data. But the concept behind it is still the same. There's data that's being produced, being assembled, being readied, coming to fruition. And only at a certain point is it considered to be at fruition and then available, truly available for consumption. One important thing to remember is that if we put development data and production data into the same environment, we automatically have a state control problem. Our users are going to have to figure out which data is in development versus which is in production, which is ready for consumption. That may not be easy for all of them. They may not understand it, even if metadata is provided through a data catalog. So state control really means that we have to separate production, or the easiest form of state control is to separate production data from development data and have them both in two different but still production IT environments. When our development data comes to fruition, becomes production data, it has to be distributed. Possibly the worst model for that is what I'm doing right now, which is pick your own. Pick your own data is not really great. We have to sort through what's good, what's bad, what we like, what we don't, and that's a task. It's better in many ways to get the data properly packaged up, labeled in a market. Pick your own can be recreational, but really it's not the best way to distribute data. But perhaps that is a topic for another video.